Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm Ren. I'm just a VTuber, but you might recognize me from the few videos I did on We the Celestials before the channel went and took our leave. Today we will be working on my first solo series, What if Izuku was in Fairytail. Now, this will not be the normal Izuku Midoriya that we had in My Hero Academia. We will be completely from the Fairytail universe, and we will be doing minimal crossover in reality. Due to the nature of being in Fairytail, there will be no quirk system, but Izuku will be completely unable to use magic of all kind for the first portion of the series. That does include usage of magic items. Today's events that we speak of should go through about the first important bits of Fairytail. The story won't change too much with the involvement of Izuku, but we're going to focus more on Izuku than we are on every other part of the series. So expect some original arcs and less of the canon material to be happening. Now, onto the story. Eight years before episode 1. Deep in a forest, a village is burning, and a man with green and red hair stands with a flaming sword, fending off the attackers. This man is Hisashi Midoriya, and his village is being attacked. Beside him stands a young red-haired girl who has yet to actually meet, but she arrived and then the village was set upon. A green-haired woman runs away, bleeding from a hole in her side, with a young green-haired boy in her arms. They manage to make it to the top of a hill, but then the woman passes. Hidden away on the top of the hill is the corpses of Inko Midoriya and her son Izuku. Standing there, Izuku watches as his entire home and all of his friends are pillaged and burned to the ground, all except for the red-haired girl who showed up, and with her came disaster. As the day comes and the night passes, the village is turned to dust, and all that's there are the corpses of his friends and family. Izuku drags his mother's body down the hill and then digs a grave. 5 graves. One for his mother, one for his father, and 3 for some small children that he had just met. Ochako, Katsuki, and Tenya Ida. The last words Izuku spoke to his mother were, "I'm sorry, Mom. If only I was stronger. If only I could have helped Dad." And then Inko passed. 3 days go by as Izuku drags a large stone and manages to bury it in the ground on its side, then carving in a memorial for his mother, father, and friends. As he leaves to wander the land around, there's one thought on his mind. I can't do this, but I'm going to anyways. Won't I won't let anybody do this. Never again. Not if I can do anything about it. After 3 weeks of wandering the countryside aimlessly, a blue light envelops the boy, and he's dropped in an unfamiliar forest. 3 years pass, and Izuku wanders the land of a nation he now knows as Fiore. Just as he's about to die, he stumbles across a pink-haired boy and a white-haired girl, just as they found an egg that fell out of the sky. Izuku looks at the egg hungrily, and then walks up, asking to eat it before briefly passing out. landing face first on the ground. Natsu does make a comment about the boy's smell. Man, he stinks. He's got a weird smell. It's not that he smells bad, it smells like he can't use magic. Lozano remarks that Natsu's just being silly, and even people who can't use magic spells can still use magic items. But Natsu insists that Izuku smells like he can't even do that. Anyways, the two carry the egg back on Natsu's back and Izuku over in Natsu's arms to the guild hall. 3 days pass before the green-haired boy wakes up. Natsu and Lasana sitting there in Master Makarov's lap. Where am I? Who are you? The old man stirs at Izuku's words. My boy, these two young lads found you and brought you into the guild hall. What were you doing all alone in the forest out there? I'm alone. Where am I? Well, Makarov explains that he's in the Fairytail guild hall, and Izuku's very taken aback. Oh, guild hall for wizards? This is the absolute last place he wanted to be. In fact, he has no reason to be here or right whatsoever. Izuku apologizes for the trouble and takes off to leave. Makarov stops him before he can get out. Boy, you almost died out there. Stay here for a while. You can work off anything we need to spend on you. And with that, Izuku joined Fairytail as a non-magic staff member. Makarov wouldn't let him go out on any quests, but he had work for the boy to do. Deliveries, pickups, and much to Izuku's surprise, he was even paid significantly better than he was expecting. Izuku had worked odd jobs to get by, but he was never given any money, let alone enough to have some actual spending for things other than food. After about 2 weeks, Izuku had actually taken Natsu's idea and built himself a little house. And then the little Exceed hatched from the egg, happy. Disappointed that he wasn't a dragon like Natsu said he was. Izuku was a little annoyed at first at the blue cat, but like everybody else in the guild hall, Happy grew on him. And then Izuku began to grow on the Strauss siblings. The loss of their parents resonated deeply with Izuku. However, there was one person who Izuku truly didn't like, and it was a red-haired girl who also seemingly didn't like Izuku, though for different reasons. After about 4 more weeks and Happy finally being able to take relative care of himself, when Izuku was unaccompanied, Urza walked up to him and yelled, "You should be dead. I've watched you die as I escaped the island. And how come you're younger than me now?" Izuku also recognized the red-haired girl, but there's no way that this could have been the girl from his childhood. I, I don't know what you're talking about. If anybody should be dead, it's you. You were the last person with those bandits. Clearly, something different happened between the two of them, and they just ran into each other's doppelgangers. However, seeing this interaction enraged Mira, who already was on tight tensions with Urza, and the two quickly got into a fight. Mira believing that Urza was picking on her surrogate brother for no reason. Another year passes, and Lasana is out on the job with Elfman and Mira Jane. And in this job, Izuku followed them. knowing he would get in trouble. But something nobody was expecting would happen. On this job, Elfman got his new beast form. However, he lost control of his magic, and Lizana got in the way to save Mira, seemingly killing her. At the funeral, everybody was sad, and at first, Izuku couldn't forgive Elfman for what he did. But seeing the sorrow on the two older siblings' face resonated even deeper with Izuku than it did with Natsu or anybody else in the guild hall. Because for him, Lisana was his big sister as well. Izuku, like Mira Jane, forgave Elfman because it wasn't really his fault. The Strauss family proceeded to go on like normal, but with the addition of Izuku. Elfman swearing off full body control, and Mira giving up on magic completely, opting to join Izuku at the front desk. We're gonna then, on much happier terms, proceed to the start of the series. In the bustling port town of Harjian, a green-haired boy surprisingly picks up a blue cat and begins chasing after a train with a pink man hanging out. Come on, Happy. Natsu's not going to survive that, you know this. The blue-haired cat grows a pair of wings and they fly off after the train, pulling the pink-haired man out the window. I'll see you back at the guild hall, Natsu. Natsu proceeds to, as in canon, go save Wendy from the false salamander, and then that night go beat up the false salamander who claimed to be a Fairytail wizard. The next day, Natsu and Lucy arrive at the Fairytail guild hall and introduce Izuku and Mira Jane to Lucy. Natsu, much to Izuku's dismay, immediately introduces Izuku as the boy who can't use magic, which very surprises Lucy to the largest degree of anybody in the guild hall. A boy who can use magic and a wizard's guild is something unheard of. Izuku then explains that he actually isn't an official member of the guild because he doesn't actually have magic. Which makes sense to Lucy, but when Izuku shows what he does and then walks in with several £1,000 of freight on his back, somehow managing to not be crushed under the weight, putting most of the wizards in the guild to shame, Natsu explains that Izuku is actually the physically strongest member of the guild hall after his older brother Elfman and the guild master. Events will proceed to, like normal in the series until we get to the Phantom Lord arc. When the guild hall is trashed, Izuku is more angry than anyone, as he's the only person who has a physical attachment to the guild hall, as the Strauss family are his adopted siblings, and the guild as a whole is his adoptive father. Though when Makarov says it's fine, Izuku does relent, much like Natsu does. However, the next morning, the person who finds Levi, Jet, and Roy staked to the tree is Izuku. Even before Makarov shows up, or anybody else, Izuku takes off to the Phantom Lord Guild Hall, breaking the door down just as Gajeel knocks out his other guildmate. Izuku begins taking down wizard after wizard. The bodies pile up, and Izuku, despite having magic, gets about 25 wizards on the ground around him before magic from the enemies starts taking their toll. The blood pools around him on the floor as he struggles to get up, refusing to yield. I'm gonna make you pay for what you did to Levi, Jet, and Roy. He falls to the ground again, then managing to get back up to his feet from all fours. Just as the guild hall's doors, or what's left of them, break off behind him, Izuku turns around to see everybody in the guild hall except for Wendy. Sorry, Wendy's not here yet. Not here. Except for Lucy and Mary Jane. Oh, you all made it. And then Izuku is pierced through the back with an iron rod that protrudes from his stomach, pinning him to the floor. The events from 3 years ago were real in Elfman's mind. Lasana on the ground, disappearing. Flying into a fury, Elfman uses his full body takeover, and before anybody can do anything, decimates 2/3 of the guild. Gaziel immediately jumps down and begins fighting, only to be knocked to the side by Makarov. Makarov continues his path to Jose, but is felled just as easily. The events of this particular fight go the same as in canon. While all this is happening, Monsieur Sol and Juvia head to Fiore town to kidnap Lucy, just like in canon. As in canon, Natsu rescues Lucy after the kidnapping, and then they all return to Fairytail. Izuku manages to make his way back to the guild hall after a bit of intensive care, claiming that even though Makarov is down, he can still fight. This was the result of him, from the hospital, seeing that the Phantom Lord guild hall had came and fired the Jupiter cannon. His injury not still fully healed, he runs to the guild hall, desperate to save anybody he can. He goes inside and sees who appears to be Lucy, but is actually Mira in disguise, who has yet to actually see Izuku since he tore off to Phantom Lord by himself. Momentarily outraged with Izuku for letting himself get so hurt, Mira's spell drops, and her fury becomes unleashed. Mira takes on her demonic forms once again, though nowhere near to the extent she could use them as she was when Losana was still alive. Just as Jupiter is preparing to fire again, Izuku runs out, getting hit by Jose's cursed spirit technique, though he doesn't fall. He's already too drained from the injuries he's taken to lose any more energy, and he's moving with his tank empty. After the guild recovers, Izuku is left in a state where he actually can't finish healing due to his reckless actions, as has earned him a scolding from Makarov about how he needs to be more careful. You can't go take on a guild full of wizards by yourself when you have no magic. Makarov, unaware of the consequences of actions, has just broken Izuku. All Izuku wanted to do was get stronger to help people. In order to do that, he needed magic. The feeling began gnawing at Izuku so intense that it almost drove him insane. Under the cover of darkness, as soon as Izuku was able to walk, without telling anyone, he left the guild in search for a way for magic that he could use. We're going to leave part 1 of What If Izuku Was in Fairy Tail right here. So thank you all for watching. Hope you have a divine day.